It is hard enough. It is not easy work for a woman. That I'm going to say at the get go. But I'll be honest, ask for all the help you need and take that help. Because
And don't be ashamed to ask. Have you ever faced the issue of identity versus guilt management, which a lot of young mothers face?
yes, I would say number one is do your research. It is important to know enough about that person, what they want to talk about, don't want to talk about. And when you get a little bit personal, you've done that research, like you and your team had done that research. So I
Are
figured.
you calling yourself influential?
No, not at all. I'm saying you did good research. Yeah, I've got prodded, asked more questions about this, try to find out why. But it's all business related.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm finding about their personal lives, but a lot of the time, like the guest is talking and they're like, tell the guest to stop talking, tell the guest to stop talking, go to the other guest. I also had someone, I was very fortunate to have someone, Delna Avari, who had been with the Tata Group for years, and she sat down with me at the stage when I was looking to, pivot on my own. And I think it was just so eye-opening, a lot of the things that she told me. So sometimes to have that helping hand, I would say there's nothing that can.
Helps, doesn't it? In this episode of the Lifeboat Season 2, we have a guest whose journey is all about resilience and courage to keep evolving. It's also a story of transformation, loyalty, and reinvention. A woman who started as a junior assistant producer, climbed the ranks, and became the face of the Indian business journalism. She spent 16 years at ET Now, proving that success is about commitment, passion, and unwavering dedication. And then after almost 2 decades, she took the bold step of venturing out on her own. ये कहानी है एक शर्मीली लड़की जो बचपन में पब्लिक स्पीकिंग से डरती थी टू बिकमिंग अ पावरफुल एंकर, मॉडरेटर और एमसी। ये कहानी है अवान दुबाश की, जिसने अपनी जर्नी मॉडलिंग से शुरुआत करके मीडिया इंडस्ट्री में अपनी जगह बनाई और आज वो एक इंडिपेंडेंट कंसल्टेंट और होस्ट के रूप में नए हाइट्स अचीव कर रही है। Avan shares with us what success means to her about pursuing passion, what it took to break out of the corporate mold, and what it means to be your own boss. She also discusses what it takes to be successful in the media industry and gives advice on how to handle pressure, manage guests, lead conversations, and how to handle different roles like an MC or a moderator or a host. और फाइनली वो शेयर करेगी अपनी लाइफ बियॉन्ड द लाइट्स, कैमरा एंड हेडलाइंस एज अ मदर बैलेंसिंग करियर और फैमिली, उनके लाइफ के सपोर्ट सिस्टम्स, मेंटर्स, कलीग्स एंड फ्रेंड्स जो उन्हें मोटिवेटेड एंड ग्राउंडेड रखते हैं और जो उनके करियर के हर स्टेज पे उनके साथ रहे. सो इफ यू आर ड्रीमिंग ऑफ अ करियर इन मीडिया, इफ यू वांट टू मास्टर द आर्ट ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन, or if you simply want to be inspired by someone who has redefined success on our own terms, then you cannot miss this conversation. So let's begin this episode with a dear friend of mine, Avan Dubash, on the Lifeboat podcast. Welcome to the Lifeboat, stories that keep you afloat. So today we have a dear friend of mine, Avan Dubash, who has multifaceted talents. She's been a journalist, she's been a TV anchor, she's been a hostess. She now is doing her own projects in terms of multiple such aspects where she brings out different products, different services for different clients. But more importantly, a phenomenal media personality and a great human being. Avan, welcome to the Lifeboat.
Thank you so much for having me. I love that introduction. Should we put it on my bio now?
So let me tell you a bit about the Lifeboat and why it's called the Lifeboat.
Yes.
I believe that failures are our biggest lifeboats for the simple reason that in life, Avan, everyone fails in some way or the other. But the idea is that you progress life in a trajectory that every time you fail a little better.
Yeah.
Which means you keep learning and keep undoing and keep unlearning and keep bringing different aspects of life. Social media managed to go across and glamorize success to a great extent. But with every successful individual, there are 100 who haven't been able to be successful.
Yeah.
So the objective of this was to go across and bring those true stories of amazing people like you, amazing individuals like you who've actually built something in life from scratch, without a platter, without any entitlement, but also to tell the viewers and the audience that while you do this, here are 20 other things you need to learn because there's so many issues that you're going to face.
Yes.
And that's why Lifeboat is about stories that keep you afloat.
I love it.
What do you think of it?
I think the concept is great. And like you said, we're so used to seeing these filtered versions, these Instagrammable versions of everyone in their lives. But what goes in behind the scenes, no one really gets to see that. So I think with you putting the magnifying glass on that, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about some very interesting stuff.
Okay.
TV anchors somehow are almost treated as celebrities.
Yeah.
They have a certain amount of, air about them. There's a certain amount of bubble around them. There's a certain amount of aspects to say, oh my God, they're always in front of the camera. They're super confident. They can speak. They're great orators. But life doesn't start like that. Life starts in a very different manner. So let's take you back to that little Avan who grew up and perhaps at one point of time decided that this is a calling for XYZ reasons. But let's take back to the mindset of what develops in the art of mass communication, in the art of being able to be a journalist, being able to be a TV anchor. But far before that, what are those seeds that go across and recognize that pattern? How was childhood, Avan? How was growing up? What was growing up with like? How was the young school days of Avan? How were the college days of Avan?
Yeah.
Take us through a little bit of that chapter which most people don't know about you.
So I would say that was a complete 180 of what I am today. I was a very shy, very sheltered child, always hid under my mother's skirt. I remember the first 2 weeks of even like when I started off big school, as they call it now, lower KG, my mom had to sit with me in class because I was just petrified in general, just very timid person. But very sheltered as a child, had great family, and I was very close to my friends. So things like that, it was very protected as a kid. And we were chatting about this earlier as well. I think that what really helped me sort of get out of my shell to a great extent was the Trinity College of London speech and drama exams. That was something that I kind of did well at. And that's where I sort of found my calling. It's something that I enjoyed at a very young age. And maybe the seed was planted then and I didn't know, but it definitely helped in boosting my confidence. So
tell us how. Go a little more granular into it. How? What is this Trinity College of London drama and speech aspect about? How does it build in that, that camaraderie of being able to say that now I can talk to 20 people, that confidence? Take us a bit to in a granular level in that.
Sure. So say, me as an example, very shy, did not like speaking in front of people, always hiding. Now you go to a class, I had the most fabulous teacher. Her name was Sharan Rani. She doesn't teach anymore, but she had this class at New Era School at the time. And there was a bunch of us and you're just encouraged to, there was a lot of improvisation. So a few plays with a bunch of kids sitting in the class. So you're just encouraged to go up front, have a voice of your own. Then we were encouraged to sort of read prose out of books, lovely stories that we like reading. We had like Matilda and lots of books by Roald Dahl. So you sort of get into the stories, which I really love those Roald Dahl books. Sort of get into that. So there was this one big production which didn't end up happening, but a Peter Pan play. So just sort of, putting you in a position where you're more comfortable speaking in front of people, where the communication skills develop. And it was something that I found that I really enjoyed, that I quite liked. And when they would have an exam every year with a professor coming down from the Trinity College of London, I feel that in that room, it's just you and the professor and you're meant to, say a piece out. That's where I was just like, I love this. I love talking. I love, being put to test when it comes to communication skills. You learned a lot about the diaphragm and way of speaking and modulating your voice over the years. And that was what I truly enjoyed.
And how did that take place in terms of your character building while you were in college? Take us through your college days.
My college days. So I was in HR college. I did junior college over there. And I think I was a little bit more confident by then because I was a little bit more exposed and had seen a lot versus just being a very shy child. And then when I was in college is when actually this thing came up called the 17 Cover Girl. It was a magazine and they sort of just reached out to a bunch of young people and they were like, would you like to take part in a Cover Girl hunt? And I said, what do I have to do? Maybe, maybe not. And they said, just come to the office, take a few photographs and you can leave. So I went to the office, took a few photographs and they were like, okay, you've been selected. And it was this like mini Cover Girl hunt. And I won it and I was on the cover of a magazine and that's when sort of modeling began for me. So I did a bit of modeling. I was with Elite Model Management while I was in college. But it's nothing I took very seriously. I just enjoyed doing it on the side. It was great money at the time.
Of course.
Yeah.
Added pocket money.
Oh man, yeah, added pocket money. And again, being in front of the camera, doing things like that, I thrived in that kind of environment. I loved it. So that's when a little bit of modeling happened, but it's not like I ever gave up studying or I was like, I want to be an actor or an actress or anything like that. That was something I said no to from the get-go. My parents weren't too keen either. So yeah, I did a little bit of modeling while studying. I did my bachelor's of mass media, BMM, and I had a great group of friends there, learned a lot. And, you know, it was a lot of practical knowledge over there, doing a lot of assignments, watching films, writing projects, going out on field, shooting on our own and things like that. And that was a great platform.
So take us through the mindset. Again, a lot of our viewers will be in that age group,
Yeah.
Avan, where either they are deciding their next career move or they're trying to enhance their career portfolio. And there's always this confusion, right, that happens to say that do extracurricular activities play a key role in character development, or should I just focus on that particular academics and say, you know, this is a waste of time and waste of bandwidth?
Yeah.
You seem to have participated in a lot in terms of
Yes, I did
extracurriculars.
debates and
Whole bunch of
shows,
them.
dancing.
How does that, in your mind, to advise our viewers, how important is extracurriculars in building character?
Yeah.
And more importantly, especially if someone wants to build a profession in the line of where you've built, which is in terms of mass communications and journalism and TV anchoring. Take us through that chain. What's your thought?
So you asked me if it's a waste of time or it's worth doing. I'd say it depends on the individual. If you feel you're not inclined towards it, it doesn't make you happy, it's not something you enjoy, maybe it's not for you, but otherwise, it is a game changer. Because for someone who maybe is in their shell or doesn't thrive academically, this is where you will shine. Being on stage in college, in front of that professor at the Trinity College of London exam, that is what made me who I am today, 100%. Now, if someone said, put your head down and sit and study, and that's what you're meant to do, and that's what you'll do, maybe I wouldn't even end up being where I am today. It absolutely gives you that platform at the young age that you needed. It was such a confidence booster. I took part in pretty much everything, and I thrived and I enjoyed it and I loved it. And I think that's where I shone. My mom always said, she was a teacher at Jai Hind College, and when she would sometimes see me on stage, she never taught me, never had anything to do with that. But when she saw me, she's like, that's where I see you shine. And I think it's that little bit of exposure that you can get, whatever you can learn, the community feeling, nothing like it.
So now take us through what the true calling is, right? Today, I think to a great extent, your career graph has been a lot of your calling internally. Be it whether it's communications, emceeing, moderating, anchoring, certain industry-specific anchoring, be the stock market, be the finance, you seem to have capitalized and been successful in all of those. But it's not that easy, right? It's not that easy unless and until you said something very important right now, that it also needs to make you happy.
Yeah.
And I think happiness quotient in terms of career is perhaps the only true way the passion can be seen.
100%.
For a lot of our viewers who are trying to identify that this is what I want to do, this is how I want to go about it. And let's say tomorrow, think of it this way, that there is an 18-year-old girl who sees you and says, I want to be an Avan.
Yeah.
I want to go down that path where ET Now show comes in and you're seeing the camera. I want to reach there. Take us through that trajectory for that 18-year-old girl.
Yeah.
How does she reach there? What are those trials, tribulations? What are those aspects of career graph along with calling that one needs to take into play?
No, I do get people reaching out to me and asking and things like that. I'm sorry if I never get an opportunity to respond. But look, education aside, you need to have, the correct educational skills, having studied, say, the financial markets, for example, if that's what you want to get into, or media, or mass communication, journalism, things like that. That's your foundation. But that aside, to get into the industry, I would say just start somewhere. It could be an internship. For example, I was always hell-bent on getting into advertising when I was younger. And I said that this is what I want to do. I want to get into copywriting and creative writing. And so I interned when I just finished school. I interned at Ogilvy and Mather. And when you do something, sometimes it's not what you realize that you want to do, or what you don't want to do. And I was like, this is not for me.
And that itself is a very important thing, what you're saying.
Absolutely. So sometimes, there could be someone saying, oh, I want to be a news anchor, I want to be on the research desk. Are you ready to wake up every morning, that early and show up? Are you ready to be in that sort of high intense work environment all the time? Be on your toes, be aware of things. Because a lot of people who I thought would excel at it, for example, I know friends who tried it, were just like, it's too much. I cannot handle this atmosphere. So maybe I would say start somewhere, get an internship, get that job, do a bit of work, start at it could I started off as a junior assistant producer. I was working on the ticker desk. So you know the news flashes that
Yeah,
come down.
yeah.
I put the first one out the day the channel launched in June of 2009. So I started off not doing what I am today, but I got my foot through the door doing a little bit.
Which channel was this?
ET Now. I've
All
been
right.
with ET Now for 16 years.
Oh, that's
Very old.
crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I've been with the channel, same channel through and through. And while I know it's very fashionable to jump and move jobs, especially with this next gen, I think there's something that really helps you when you stay within the same organization. You can grow, you can thrive within that one place that can help nurture you. So I saw merit in that.
Mhm.
So start somewhere, get that internship, get that job, be on the desk, be hands-on, and see if you enjoy doing it. If you feel, yes, I like this aspect, I like the camera aspect of it, or I like the research aspect of it. And there's so many people in my organization who say, we hate being on camera. We love doing the research. We love the research reports, culling information. So that's how you kind of know what you like, what you don't like. For me, I loved being in front of the camera. So it's not like it happened on day one. There was so much anchor training that went in before that. For me, I joined the channel before it launched. So luckily, I was very privileged to get the anchor training, the capital markets training. And that's how it started.
So, what was the baptism of fire? Do you remember that first day when
Yeah.
you were put in front of the camera? Was it planned? Was it accidental?
Yeah.
How were the butterflies in the stomach that time?
Yeah. So they let me do weekend bulletins, which means nothing live happened at the time. So that was fine. I did a little bit of live, which was very relaxed. You read off the teleprompter. When I say relaxed, it's also lots of butterflies. But comparatively, on a weekday, things are a lot more busy. And then one weekday morning, I'm sitting in my usual time at the ticker desk, and someone comes running up to me saying, the anchor hasn't shown up. We have 15 minutes to go on air. Avan, you've done this before. Put on your makeup and get ready. And I said, no, I don't. I've never done a 7 a.m. in the morning. I can't do it on a Monday. They said, you have no choice. Go get ready. I did it. And they were like, 3, 2, 1, you're on air. And I did it. And it was so unnerving. But you know that feeling of excitement plus nervousness, but a little more excitement. It was that. And I did it. And I got off air. And they were like, you were amazing. We should get you on air more often. I think that was my aha moment. I was like, okay, I like doing this. I'm also good at it. I've learned enough. So that's when I was like, I can do this.
Yeah,
now.
you still remember that.
Still remember that.
Lovely.
Yeah.
You said something very interesting, and especially in this profession, 16 years of being in one place versus where the norm has now become to keep jumping
Right.
and perhaps riding the wave of that new brand, new aspects, etc. A lot of our viewers may be again in that mindset to say that does long-term tenacity in one place versus looking at that waves that keep on building opportunities and riding those opportunity waves,
Yeah.
which one's a better option? So take us through that mindset
Yeah.
of, and you've had friends who've moved to different places, right?
Yeah.
We have common friends who've moved to different
Yes.
places, but you've stuck on.
Yeah.
What's the difference in the mindset?
Oh gosh. No, I say oh gosh because look, I am a conservative Parsi girl. My parents are both professionals. They said, yo, you've got a lovely company. You've got the Times Group backing you. This is it for you. Stay here, grow, thrive. So a lot of that was inculcated in me. I don't know if that's
But
necessarily.
you're a firepower. It's not that inculcation would get you to
No, it
just
did.
think through.
It did. I wasn't even ballsy enough to ask for a salary raise. And I can't tell you. I was just so quiet, timid, sheltered, put my head down, did my work. That's that. And didn't ever think that, hey, maybe, I should go and ask for that raise or I deserve to get that show or something. I was just so that does get ingrained, which is a good
and a bad,
thing.
Yeah.
So, because for
But
instance,
more good, more bad. Let's talk a little bit in detail on that.
No, I
think through it.
Yes, of course, it gave me that sense of loyalty. It gave me that sense of hard work. Love that aspect. But I wish I could have been a little bit more ballsy, if you will. I was talking to, I remember Deepa Khosla, who's this blogger, and she said that at the young age, it was inculcated in her from her father to do something entrepreneurial. She said when she was a kid, her father said, you will grow up and do something on your own. Now, when you're fed that mindset at a young age, and look what she's gone on to do, build this empire, I would say that also has a great bearing on the way you work and the way you navigate your career and your life. And sometimes that can also be a great asset to have. Now, again, both of the things, which is better, which is not, there's no hard and fast rule. But I think it's just fashion. I would commend this generation for being gutsy enough to follow their dreams, to follow their passions. So I wouldn't say keep it inside you as long as I did, because I did have this thing. I wanted to do work outside. When someone called me and said, hey, would you be open to like sort of host this book launch or do this? I always had to say no. I would go to my boss and be like, hey, can I? And they were like, sorry, you're under contract. I got a lot of modeling offers. Again, I mean, some people reconnected and said, and my heart was in that. And I would go and say, can I do this? And they were like, nope, sorry. So I said, okay, sorry, not allowed to do it. So I kept it in for very long. My passion and my desire to do something outside. Yes, it was great because I learned everything along the job. It made me grow. It made me reach where I have today, where I can confidently say now I'm leaving. But I can do this on my own. Maybe if I'd started earlier, I would have been taken a few years to find my feet, which is also okay. But here, I sort of I would say sort of established enough, if I may.
You're being humble. You're being humble. It's okay.
To start off on my own.
Let me ask a hard question here. Okay. Now we're going to get into we're going to get into the groove of the podcast.
This is the real podcast.
Yeah. You said something very interesting about being very appreciative of today's generation to be gutsy enough to just go for their passion, their calling, what they want to do.
Yes.
Don't you think that's also directly proportional to the background of where that individual comes from? Example, if you have to worry about, Avan, food on the table, versus if you don't have to worry about food on the table.
Yeah.
If food on the table is what your worry is, passion, I think, takes a back seat. But if food on the table is not there, passion can definitely flow through and make you grow in its own way. Yes. So isn't it somewhat unfortunate to say that, all right, follow your passion because you can afford to, but go goddamn do that job because you need that salary to put on food on the table. So why is it that this dichotomy will always be there where the mid-middle class or the lower middle class will only chase food on the table, but people who don't have to bother can say, oh, you know what, I'm chasing my passion and I'm living my dream. So this is a very contradictory thought. Now let's talk about this.
Very true, which is why I will say side hustle.
Talk about it.
So yes, food on the table, that's your number one priority. It's something that you cannot do without. That passion ain't coming if you don't have the food on the table, right? So do that corporate job, do what you gotta do, make the money to make sure that you have food on the table. But if you're interested, I think you're the best example of that, right? You enjoy being in front of the camera, podcast, talking. It comes so naturally for you. I even asked you, how do you get the time to do it? You don't get the time to do it. You make the time to do it. Why? Because you're passionate about it. It's kind of your side hustle. Can I say that? I mean, okay, it's something. It's not the only thing you do, is what I mean.
Yeah, it's my side hustle without bothering about commercials. Let's take it that way.
I mean, right?
I'm fortunate to have perhaps been able to create things from scratch to where I am to allow this.
Yes.
But a lot of people are still in that zone where they have to focus on food on the table. So I'm an aberration.
Okay.
Let's talk about people where you're saying something beautiful. You're saying something about focus on the day job, but the side hustle is what is that catalyst to get that passion out. So talk a bit about that, because I want to hook this into a very, very interesting next question.
So you do the job, you do what you got to do, but the side hustle is what is the fire in your belly. That is what is keeping you up at night. That's what keeps keeping you thinking. So don't give up what you have, but start somewhere. Make the time for what you love. So say you have your 9-to-5 job that is XYZ, you need that to make your money. But what is the fire in your belly is, say, doing, being a social media influencer. Start making videos, start creating content, start writing scripts, start shooting. After you get back from work, start going and recording, go out there and do it. Once you start doing that and you see that, hey, not too bad, I managed to get a small brand to sponsor me. Hey, I got someone who requested me to be on their show. Hey, someone asked me to do some work for them and decided to pay me. It's looking like a bit of a lucrative option. Maybe this can happen. I got my foot through the door. I can consider making some more money from here versus what I am on the other side, or at least generating some income, then you make your side hustle your main gig, and that's when.
So that's what I've written down here, because I said I want to hook this into a very interesting
Yes.
aspect.
Okay.
Do you think, therefore, and this is a beautiful example for a lot of our viewers to say that the side hustle actually is about fire, putting fire onto that passion, igniting that passion. But therefore, is that an automatic call to the entrepreneurship journey which will follow on through that?
Many a time, for sure.
Has it worked with you in that context?
Yeah, it has, in a way. I mean, I'm on my own. I set out on my own after being in the corporate world for so long.
In detail, take us through.
Yeah.
Take us through the. So this is a beautiful point. What I want you to get granular on for our viewers is, how does one recognize the calling to say that this is that calling to be an entrepreneur? Because let's be very honest, Avan, entrepreneurship sounds very glamorous, but it's the darkest hole one can jump.
100%, yeah.
And when you jump into that hole, you realize how lonely you are.
Yes.
Because you're goddamn lonely. You're the last of the food chain.
Yeah.
I've done that for now quite a few years,
Yeah.
right? So I know the pain behind it.
Yeah.
But then the rewards come in, which is,
Yeah.
I keep saying this, it's a contrarian view, but the delta always lies in the contrarian.
Yeah.
If you can take the contrarian, that's where you get the delta. For the sake of our viewers, when did Avan recognize her calling to say that, hey, you know what? 16 years of cocoon protection, brand, content, identity, television, camera, everything. But then all of this is great, but here's my calling. Let me jump. Take us through that moment.
Yeah.
I want to get into that mind of understanding and recognizing when one feels that entrepreneurship is possible.
So, like I said, when I would get that call for someone saying, hey, would you be able to do this? I so wanted to do it. I wanted to do it so badly, but I would go to my boss and he'd say, no, sorry, you're with ET now, you're with the channel, cannot get that other offer. And I always sort of suppressed it. But if I thought about it, or if I dreamt up an ideal scenario, that is what I wanted to do. Now, there was the other point that you brought up. When you know entrepreneurship, it is a hard and it is a lonely journey. But if it is still something that you're willing to do day after day after day, and when you get the fruit of that, or reap the fruit of that, the joy that you get, don't you feel it's unparalleled? It's unparalleled, right? Like when, for example, for me, even when I got my first gig, or when I got that paycheck or something, there were
It's a high.
months. Yeah, there were months that so luckily for me, like I said, side hustle was important.
So we're very natural. So I'm going to request for more coffee. You
Yes,
continue
yes,
talking.
yes,
Can we get
sure.
some coffee? Thank you. Please continue.
Yeah.
That's how this
So,
podcast
yeah.
is.
Okay, of course, I love it.
Yeah.
So I was
No cuts.
No cuts. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was with the channel long enough. The last year and a half, I spoke to friends of mine and all, and they said, you know what, you feel, and there's so much more potential for you to do things outside. But I said, I can't leave. Who will give me work? What if I'm going day after day without the
Yeah.
phone ringing? I don't have that mindset. I don't have that entrepreneurial mindset. I'm happy working for someone and making my little salary every month. And it was little. I'm joking. So
We can see. Very little.
No. Now I'm a consultant. So I was doing that, and I said, okay, fine. Maybe this is it for me, and I'm done. I'm going to quit. I went to my boss and said I wanted to quit, and they said, no, you stay on in some capacity. And initially I was pretty upset about that. I was like, no, but I finally, got the guts. I want to leave. And now they're asking me to stay back. But that, in hindsight, was the best thing that could have happened, because I was a consultant, which means I still had the backing of ET now, because when I went out and sent my portfolio out and put my name out and messaged every Tom, Dick and Harry and you saying, hey, I'm doing this, I'm on my own now, so reach out to me. For the first 4 to 5 months, nothing. No one called me. No one reached out to me. I went and met everyone. I said, if you have the time, if I can meet you or whatever. Yes, they were sweet enough to take the time up, but my phone wasn't ringing. But luckily, I had that thing of I'm getting up, I'm going every morning into the office. So that's why I say, get your foot through the door, but don't leave it. Because I know my temperament. Had I left completely, I would have been unaware. I would have been, what is this? I can't do this. No one's calling me. I'm getting back to ET now. This is my full-time job. Screw this passion and all of this. I can't handle it. I don't have it in me. So yes, those were months of no one contacting me, and then yes, it was very, very gradual. I had one in 1 month, 3 months later I had something else coming, and then as you work with people, the flow and all of it. But that happiness that I got through that, unparalleled. I enjoyed it, I loved it, I thrived in that environment. It was something I was okay to wake up early in the morning. I was okay to put in the extra hours. I was okay to maybe not hang out with my daughter or travel and wake up at X whatever at
Yeah.
6 in the morning and do it, because it gave me that happiness.
That's your call. That's your call. Go ahead. So you said something very interesting, and I want to pull out that mindset, because that also outlines resilience. That also outlines perhaps anxiety management, and more importantly, that self doubt.
Yeah.
4 months of the phone not ringing,
Yeah.
which basically meant it was also a test to say ki maybe you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of our viewers may be in that flux, think that they've taken that jump, but things are not working out the way they wanted to.
Yeah.
Things are not shaping up the way they wanted to. How does one keep the mindset resilient? How does one say, it's a phase, let's stick through it. It'll pass. Let's give our best shot. How does one how is it that, and the reason I ask you this, because you've gone through the journey, right? As an
Yeah.
entrepreneur now, today,
Yeah.
how do you not lose hope?
Yeah, no, it's not easy, but having the backing of still my job was something that kept me sane. But I would say, instead of anxiety and getting stressed out about it, do one thing: give yourself a time frame. I gave myself that time frame. I said that I will do it till X point of time. Maybe it's a year, maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's 3 years, whatever works for you.
1,000-day test is the thumb rule of entrepreneurship.
Okay, so 1,000 days.
1,000 days, 3 years. In 1,000 days, if you made it, you'll never fail. If you don't, you won't.
So there you go. I gave myself that time frame, and I said that if it doesn't happen for me, it doesn't. So be it. But I have to give it time. You're not gonna. I mean, success doesn't. I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day. Success doesn't happen overnight. You went through those grueling, lonely, horrible days where I'm sure you doubted yourself. I doubted myself so much. I was like, have I made the right decision? What am I doing? Giving up this cushy job that I have. I'm comfortable. I've built my name here. Why leave it? But then was it igniting that passion to wake up every day in the morning for me? No, it wasn't. So you give yourself that time frame, and you try not to let it get to your head. I'd say do enough things that keep you occupied. For someone like me, an idle mind is a devil's workshop. So, have enough other stuff. I mean, I have a young daughter. I could never drop her to school. I could never pick her up. I wanted to do all of those things.
Yeah.
So I said, I mean, but it's individual to individual,
course.
because so many people told me, hey, even if you leave and nothing happens, you can just chill. And I can't do the chilling. I can't do the just nap and just chill and just hang. No, I need to have something.
Positive bandwidth usage.
Yeah. Even if it's I mean, it could be as mindless as cleaning my room or something, but that is something that I am doing.
So keep yourself occupied.
Yes.
And thank you so much. And believe in that faith that it is going to turn around.
Yes, have that faith that it is going to turn around.
So important, isn't it?
I also went to like tarot card readers.
Oh, lovely. Did you see the last episode? It was about a tarot card reader.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she's a very dear friend of mine. She's India's one of the most renowned tarot card.
Give me her number.
Scary stuff though.
No, it is. Look, never depend on that stuff. I wouldn't say put your 100%, but sometimes I feel when you have that little bit of doubt, it can give you the nudge. It gives you the nudge you need. So at the time, wait, can I tell you how it happened?
Tell
for
me.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay,
this is going to be
real
fun.
true
This
story.
is going to be fun.
I went with my daughter for a birthday party. And, they have like a bunch of stalls, and they had a tarot card reader. Random. I was in my job. Life was great. Working. And I was like, okay, there's someone there. Might as well go. I always go to these tarot card readers. And I went, and she opened up these cards, and I said, hey. And she said, do you have a question? I said, okay, tell me about my career or something. And she was like, you're not happy doing what you're doing. And there is so much more that you have the potential to do, but you just can't do it. And I was like,
Zapped.
what? Yeah, because life was going on for me. Yeah, maybe I had that thing at the back of my mind.
But that was the nudge.
That was the nudge. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. And then I asked her a few questions like, how long? And she said, it's not going to be easy. It's going to take time. In fact, she had said 5 years. But that planted the seed. And then it was a few months after that I said, you know what, maybe I'll take this decision, blah, blah. It's so weird, but and I tell, like, I'm not in touch with her, but I shared her number with someone and I was just like, they were like, oh, is she accurate? I said, well, she changed my life. So take it as you
Yeah.
want to, because it did. It planted the seed.
So in a way, the resonance of this is that there are so many third-party elements which can act as catalysts.
Yes.
But I think end of the day, it's about the mindset.
Yeah.
If you have the mindset to go across and do something on your own,
Mm-hmm.
I think these are signs. These are external factors will just come in to do that
Yes,
calling.
yes.
But in reality, if you have the calling,
Yes.
you will plunge.
Those are all your little nudges that you need. I had my husband who sort of gave me that extra push. I had two amazing friends of mine who sat me down and said, hey, here are the pros, here are the cons. Then they said, why don't you think up a list of work that you can do and whatever. And while I was making that list, I mean, I was the excitement was palpable. That's what I really loved doing. Here was the list I made of people I would reach out to. Here were the corporates. Here were the lifestyle, and things like that. So yes, it was that mindset. It was the fire in my belly. And yes, there will be obstacles along the way, but you ride it out and you have that grit and gumption to do it because this is what you want.
True. This reminds me of something where there's an adage which I used to follow in life, Avan. The most obvious is the least obvious. And I'll tell you how. So I was speaking in one of these large forums, and someone just picked up in the end of the conversation. We have these Q&A sessions, right? Someone wanted to ask a question, and Turner said, VB, and generally the world calls me as VB, which is what I prefer.
Okay.
So I said, hey VB, you've built something successfully. You're now building 2 careers. You have a law firm. You're doing a podcast. You're doing 1,000 things in this context. But tell me, how easy is it? How easy is it to build a business? So I said, hey, it's damn easy, man. He said, yeah. I said, yeah, it's very easy. I said, all right, how do I do it? So you have a pen and a paper? I said, yeah. I said, do one thing. Write down the most obvious list of people who will support you in your journey.
Okay.
Then write down the most obvious list of people who will fund you in your journey.
Mm.
Write down the most obvious list of customers or clients of people who are going to go across and take your services in your journey.
Mm.
And finally, write down the most obvious people who are going to be your core team in your journey.
Yeah.
And with that, you formulate a 1-year, 3-year, and a 5-year revenue plan.
Yeah.
So yeah, I said, yeah, it's that easy. That's how the business happens. So he gave me that look. He said, okay. And he was sitting down. I said, don't sit. He said, have you written all of this down? He said, yeah. I said, all that in a paper? He said, yeah. He said, now take the paper, fold it again, tear it, and throw it away.
Yeah.
So your most obvious list of supporters are gone.
Hmm.
Your most obvious clients are gone. Your most obvious funders are gone. Your most obvious teammates are gone. Can you still take the plunge?
Yeah.
And if the answer in your heart is that yes, then that's when you jump to be an entrepreneur, because the most obvious is the least obvious.
Love it.
And that's when the whole audience went stunned and they were
Yeah.
like, my God, I was like,
Yeah.
that's the true depth of an
Yeah.
entrepreneur.
That's so true. That's so true.
Because it's your journey. No one else can go across and talk about it.
And you have to be willing to go through the ups and the downs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very few people know another very interesting side. So I'm going to do this little serious, little not so serious stuff.
Okay.
That's how we have this conversation.
Okay, I love it. VB.
Tell me, very few people know about a certain Adnan Sami video.
Oh God.
And very few people know about the fact that the lovely, wonderful Avan Dubash, who's known as such a successful TV anchor,
Yeah.
was also a part of a music video. Take us through that. What makes those things happen? And how does it help the mindset also? Is it like a breakage? Is it something that you do differently? Take us through those magic moments.
Oh, so that was part of my modeling days, where I was doing ads, TVCs, and a few things.
My team's done good research on you.
Very good, yeah. Oh, one more thing, but you will not get this anywhere, is that I was shortlisted for Slumdog Millionaire.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was. And my agent was like, go for the interview. And my dad was like,
Out of question.
no way, you're not going. I was like, no, but he's directed this film called The Beach. It's a Hollywood film with Leonardo DiCaprio. Dad was like, no. So I didn't even go. There was some Amir Khan film and things like that. I didn't go up. I didn't show up. I didn't do all of this. So there was this music video opportunity that sort of came. It was just via my pictures while I was with Elite. and they said, "You've been selected." And I said, I went for one audition, Oshiwara
Yeah.
audition. That was also something that I enjoyed doing, so I did it. I mean, for me, South Bombay Sheltered Girl was going
You went
by
to a different
local
state?
train. No. Yeah, pretty
Oh,
much.
you're not
I
gonna
had
say
my
that.
passport.
Most of my South Bombay friends started saying,
Yeah,
you know what,
different
beyond
state.
Bandra, I need my visa.
So I had my visa. I was going by train every other day, putting my makeup in rickshaws, things like that, audition after audition. Some happened, some didn't. It was just fun for me. So I enjoyed the entire process. And yeah, they were like, "You've been shortlisted, go for this audition." I got the video, and my parents weren't too keen, but my mum kind of supported me. And it was a 2-day shoot at St. Xavier's College, and it was at a mill in Colaba, I remember. So I was like, "Chalo, it's at least it's in South Bombay." I'm joking. So, but it was great, but I wasn't briefed too much about the video. So there was some stuff that I didn't love doing, and then, but whatever. All in all, great experience to have been- helped. But then they were like, "Now we're launching the music video. We have a launch party, kind of, not even a party, like a showcase and stuff." And I was like, "I'm not even going to go for that." I didn't even go for that. So nothing. I just shot the video, did it. Great experience, great exposure. But
You also did a
That was
digital
it.
collab with another friend of mine, Neeta Lulla.
yes, I
How was that?
did. I worked with her. Yeah. It was actually for Hello Magazine that I did this interview that was in my freelancing career. And it was great interviewing her, and a bunch of other wonderful women spoke about their careers and balancing motherhood and a job. And that was fun. Yeah.
So now say, you said this again beautifully, and the best part about these chats in the lifeboat is that my team prepares a bunch of questions, and then they abuse me
Because you've not asked.
because I
her.
never ask any questions, because everything is on the floor, everything is live, everything
Yeah.
goes with the construct of how things are building.
Yeah.
In the background, we hear your
Yeah,
daughter.
my daughter,
Yeah,
sorry.
which is beautiful,
Yeah.
because the next question is linked to this.
Okay.
You just mentioned about motherhood
Yes.
and balancing the act of building something together. A lot of our viewers might be in that zone where they had taken that break, where they're coming back, and now they're facing two aspects. One, the imposter syndrome, and second, the guilt syndrome.
Yeah.
And yet wanting to balance out a career, wanting to balance out a journey, even though this entire essence of a young child is factored in.
Yeah.
You've done that successfully, you've done that beautifully. But it's not easy.
Yeah.
Take us through a little bit of the mindset of advising a lot of our
Yeah.
viewers who perhaps are going through these aspects of issues. How easy is it to factor in entrepreneurship with a young child and marrying the essence of motherhood, guilt management, separation anxiety, and yet saying, "Hey, you know what? I have a baby, but there is another baby which is my dream, and I want to build
Yeah,
that, and I
yeah.
want both to grow together.
Yeah.
I want both to feed off each other."
Yeah.
Take us through that mind.
I mean, even whether you're an entrepreneur or you're even just working, it is hard enough. It is not easy work for a woman. That I'm going to say at the get-go. But I'll be honest, ask for all the help you need and take that help. Because there
And don't
is
be ashamed to ask.
And don't be ashamed to ask for it. And look, yes, there are times I don't show up to pick up my daughter every day, or to drop her to school, or to do a lot of the things that I wanted to do with her. So, I think it was Indra Nui who said that it's never a balancing act. You're always sort of prioritizing one
Always.
over the other, juggling one over the other. And yes, sometimes
She had her EA pretend to be the mother for answering questions with respect to her daughter's school questions as well.
Okay.
If you ever go through that interview.
Yeah. So, I mean, that just tells you a lot about how it always is this balancing act. But it was something I was very clear about. I said that after my 6-month maternity leave, I know for a fact that I want to get back into this. And for some moms, I know for a fact that I don't want to get into this. I want to take that pause. It could be an extended pause, and that's okay. You do what works for you. You do you. But inside, I know that I would not have been happy had I given up my career completely. And happy mom, happy baby. I believe in that 100%. Had I been at home with her every single day, at the back of my mind thinking, man, I wish I was in the office. I wish I was conversing with adults. I wish I was doing that show. I wish that was me. It would come off of her and she would feed off that energy. So do what makes you happy. I knew that going back would make me happy. It is very daunting initially, but I was fortunate enough to have a company. Maybe that's where the 16 years worked, right? I was with them for so long that they said, hey, you know what? If coming in for an entire 8-9 hour day doesn't work for you, come in for a shorter spell, go back, come, go back. So I was very fortunate to have had that flexibility. I think if companies today allowed more work from home, allowed more flexibility, women today, there would be so many more women in the workforce. I think I just read about it. Was it the Citigroup CEO who has enabled that? And
Yeah.
what a game changer it is. The fact that I knew that I can come home or I can work from home changed everything. My mindset, if I knew that I was going to be out for 8 days, where do I keep my kid? What do I do? She's 6 months old. I
Yeah.
want to be with her. It's terribly terrifying. So that flexibility is an absolute game changer. And then doing what makes you happy. So yes, there were times I had to give up this and give that up and
And balance it.
balance it.
Have you ever faced the imposter syndrome? And if you have, how have you worked across it?
No, I haven't.
You haven't?
Not that much, no.
Have you ever faced the issue of identity versus guilt management, which a lot of young mothers face?
Yes, but like I said, it was something that I knew I wanted to do. The guilt is real, let me tell you. When you leave your
I know
child.
that as a father, the guilt is
yeah,
real.
it is.
I travel 15 days a month and my kid
It's
is just
not
6 and a
easy,
half. He keeps
right?
growing up.
Exactly. Like when I'm on those flights and when I'm doing, that's why I always do day trips for work. I mean, there's things. So like I'm willing to do the 11 p.m. flight
Red eye flights.
just to be home. I'm willing to do the 6 a.m. I tell them I'd rather do a shoot in the afternoon. If I have to stay that extra day, okay, then maybe I don't take her to class the next morning. I'm not always there, but I'm asking for all the help I need. I'm not ashamed to admit that I'm not saying I'm this guru who's doing everything. I'm not cooking organic meals for my child, plus doing bedtime every day, plus dropping her to school, plus doing I delegate a lot of that work. And yes, that is what makes me do a
I think
lot.
it's important also, right? It's very important to
I would break
understand.
down if I said I
Yeah.
wanted to do everything.
And it's not humanly possible. And I think one of the best parts is to say that it's right to create the ecosystem, but it's also equally right to ask for help. It
100%.
doesn't make you smaller.
It doesn't.
And a lot of women entrepreneurs should understand that if you're actually building up a dream, that also is a baby.
Yes.
And you have to
need
feed that
nurture
baby. You have to nurture that because that has to
Yeah,
grow.
yes.
Now let's get back to your career.
Yeah.
A very, very interesting, if I may say, impression that is about the career of a TV anchor is that it's a life of high pressure,
Yeah.
live wire. There's a whole bunch of things that can go wrong. There's a whole bunch of things that do go wrong.
Yeah.
But your life, you're in front of the camera. Inside the earphone, people are screaming, but you need to have that lovely smile of yours and continue speaking. How does one manage that calmness? If you had to advise some of our young viewers who are perhaps pursuing that particular career or want to pursue, how do you keep sane in a crazy situation of TV journalism?
Yeah. It's so funny because so many people who leave the newsroom and go into other corporate jobs, they're like, I don't like this place because it's so quiet. Because in the newsroom, nobody talks. We only scream. Hey, did that guest come? Who's online? Patch this phone or get this mug. So everything is at such a loud volume. You have to love that. I loved being in that newsroom. I loved that high octane atmosphere. I loved being a part of it, fixing a guest. Okay, now whatever, there's GDP. Let's get an economist on the phone, dial your phone, pick him up, ask the guest if he's free. So you kind of have to like doing that. Whereas when you're in the studio, it's a very different ballgame. You wear the earpiece. You have a mic clipped on, you're staring into a black hole. It's basically that. And of course, you have your co-anchors sitting with you. But like they say, with a news anchor, you could have, had the worst day ever. Your kid could be crying and wailing. But when you're in front of the camera, nothing else matters. You have to put that all aside. So you segregate and you're focused on what is in front of you. Because this is not like any other job. You say, 1 minute, no 1 minute.
There's no take two.
There's no take two. It's live. Yeah, you can get up in a break. It's not like we don't
Of
like,
course.
but you got to be very present. So yes, you sort of, segregate in your mind. You bifurcate all of the other things that are going on, and that is your sole focus for those few minutes. You maintain your composure, and there's a lot of training and practice that goes into it. It's not happening overnight. I did 100 weekend shows on a Saturday just to practice what it's like, having the producer speak in my ear, pressing the teleprompter, having a live guest patched on, having some breaking news happen, taking down numbers. And mistakes, they're all part of the journey, but it's how you deal with those mistakes. Yes, have I said wrong numbers on air? I have. But you take ownership, you account for it, you say, you know what, I'm sorry, there was a bit of a miscalculation. Let me take that again. Let me do that again. And we're all human. We're bound to make mistakes. No grave errors, of course.
Of course.
But you take ownership.
So if you had to crystallize this into 3 solid advices for our viewers,
okay,
what was those 3 solid advices be to maintain sanity?
To be on an anchor.
To maintain sanity while you're in that zone of chaos.
Being on air.
Yeah. 3.
Okay. So number 1, filter out all the noise. It is only your work that matters at the time. Number 2, you have to be present. So you have to be attentive and listening to what's happening. And I would say number 3 is that be prepared. Have done this 100 times. Have your research prepped in front of you so that you know that the time when it's happening live, you are ready, set, go to do it.
I want to ask you a very interesting but a personal question.
Okay.
Okay. Personal in the sense of mindset again.
Okay.
This profile and this career also comes with an added essence of glamour.
Yeah.
It also comes with an added essence of power. Maybe a certain amount of influence or perceived influence.
Yes.
But more importantly, the fact to say, hey, you know what? It's almost a celeb. She's there on TV every day.
Yeah.
I know you personally, so I know that at the end of the day, none of this impacts you.
Yeah.
But there are people who would go across and have that mindset come in too, which somehow develops an essence called hubris. And hubris can do a lot of screw-ups, professionally and personally. So, my question to you is, what is the definition of personal success for someone as successful as you in this journalism line, in this anchoring line, in this media line? And how do you manage hubris? How do you define success? And how do you manage hubris?
Oh God, such a Miss World question. No, I think it's very personal, but in this,
But there has to be magic mantras.
I would say that to a great extent, success is when you wake up in the morning knowing that you don't have to think about the food on the table and you're able to follow your passion to a great extent. That is success.
So the basics are taken care of.
The basics are taken care of and that you can follow your dream. I
So true.
I think that for me
Is the truest essence.
is the truest essence of success.
Okay. How do you manage hubris? How does the Avan who people would say is, oh my God, so glamorous, so lovely, right there on the screen, such a beautiful person.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to go across and approach. And you just say, hey, you know what? This is all there as a facade.
Yeah.
The real me is still that
Yeah.
little Avan back in,
Yeah.
South Bombay, hiding behind the mother's skirt and still comfortable in that inner circle.
Yeah.
How do you manage hubris? It's very easy to start walking 2
Yeah.
feet above the air.
Well, 100% it is. But I think my parents, I would credit a lot to that. My mom especially just always said, no matter what, just please keep yourself grounded. Look at people around you. Look at the journeys that they're going through. It's not all about you. It's about the entire ecosystem. Look, even as a news anchor, please remember, yes, you are the one who is on screen. You are the one who the camera is on. But the true magic, it's all behind the camera. It is the production control room. It is the producer. It is the studio director. It is the desk team.
Story.
It is the assignment. It is everyone working together to make you look like the hero. But without them,
You're nothing.
you would be nothing. So I think I definitely took into account that it's not just me. It is this entire fabulous team behind it with this amazing machinery who has put me on this little pedestal, and I have to take accountability for that and not let it get to me.
So what you're saying at the end of the day is that the mindset should be of responsibility and
Yeah.
accountability
Yeah.
to say that this is actually a role that you're fulfilling for that particular channel or for that particular task or that particular environment, as against saying that it is about you.
Exactly.
So the lot of mistake that a lot of youngsters make is to start realizing that hum hai baki sab mein pani kam hai.
Yeah.
So the I, me, myself syndrome is what needs to change to say that,
100%.
You're just one small spectrum in the scheme of things.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, we know how the world is evolving. I mean, one day you're here and the next you're not. So you cannot never take all of that for granted. And I never did.
So let's flip this into another very interesting and yet a personal question.
Okay.
And more so for a lot of our female viewers.
Okay.
Along with glamour, along with public disposal of availability, information, access, comes this entire essence of random thoughts of people saying, hey, you know what, I can approach her at any point of time. Especially if you're very presentable, if you're nice to look at, if you are articulate, and various other aspects. A lot of our viewers have this dichotomy in the mind to say that if I go into anything to do with public eye of media, there are a lot of negative elements that come in as well. Be it stalking, be it approaching, be it inbox DMing, be it IG DMing. There's so many nonsenses that happen. Have you faced that? Number one. Number two, for those viewers, those young girls who want to jump into this, how do you tell them to filter these out and stay strong?
Yeah.
Does this shit happen? Is this shit real? And if it is, how do you deal with it?
I'm rolling my eyes because it is real, and I have really faced a lot with the stalker issues. I mean, initially it was very like people DMing you. So on Facebook, anyone could at one point send you a DM.
Yeah,
and
the
would go
Facebook
into the
Messenger,
other folder.
yeah.
So I never looked at it. I never knew about it. I never cared. Or maybe occasionally I did delete, block, whatever, your typical thing. Until one day someone shows up to my office and says, have you been reading my messages? And I said, who is this? I thought it was someone for work. They said, someone's come to the reception. Please come out. Came to the reception. And he said, hi, have you been reading your DMs? And I was like, what are you talking about? What is this? And it ended up being a guy who had come out from Calcutta.
Jesus, seriously?
Yeah, and said that, I've been sending you these messages and it's been 2 years now, and then that just unearthed like a lawyer where we had to call the police, and that got resolved. But I ended up reading the messages, and it was just like 2 years every day, literally sending me hundreds of messages, and I'm going to marry you and I'm going to come and take you. And it was all very daunting, but that is okay, something I could deal with. And then I had a really bad stalker issue where it got to my husband, and he got called to the police station because he put a false attack of it was very messy, a false attack on my head. It got serious, and I had to be taken to the police station. It was all very, very messy. So that's why I definitely try to keep my personal. I mean, for the longest time, I thought, should I even have a public profile on Instagram when I was with ET now? This is years ago, because it's just not worth it. But then I said, I'm going to definitely bifurcate my personal and my professional life. So I do that very, knowingly. And I don't put anything personal out there because, it was.
So this shit is real?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
What advice do you have for those young women viewers who will be getting into this and perhaps may not be as strong as you?
Yeah, sure. But it doesn't happen very often. It did to me and maybe another. Otherwise, it's honestly pretty harmless. I'm going to be clear and say that. When you're a news anchor, it's not like you're Kareena Kapoor, and it's not that serious. You don't need bodyguards and things like that. But definitely you need to alert your workplace. My workplace was amazing about it. They said, even when you go park your car, we'll have someone go with you. If you would like a driver in the morning, if you would like someone to accompany you every day, because I used to get office pickups, because earlier it was very early that I went. I didn't even go alone. So you need to alert your HR, you need to alert your workplace, you need to tell people around you, don't keep it to yourself. So everyone in my workplace was very aware. And they said, because I had someone else come down to the office, and so it did get very messy, but it's not very common. It's not very common
So people should not be too worried, but be smart is what you
be smart about it, alert people about it, be aware. I definitely had my guard up for a very long time after that. Didn't do things alone and stuff. Yeah, because then.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Now, let's talk about a little lighter.
Okay.
As an anchor and a moderator, you've often guided a lot of conversations. I have also seen
Yes,
you
I'm
guide.
so used to being at that end of the table.
Yeah, it feels
Yeah,
different, right?
yeah.
But one of the best parts of guiding conversations is also at times you're dealing with a lot of successful people, largely high profile people,
Yeah.
maybe influential people. And that is where sometimes there's a conflict to say, hey, you know what? I need to say what I want to say. Don't guide my conversation. So there's this thin line of respect and directive, which as an anchor and a moderator, you need to balance it out.
Yeah.
The reason I ask you this is, again, these are all guiding tools for our viewers who will be interested in this profession. To say that when you are maybe moderating or anchoring very influential people who come with their own cohorts of egos at different level, how do you manage a conversation and ensure that you get all the answers without ruffling feathers?
I would say number one is do your research. It is important to know enough about that person, what they want to talk about, don't want to talk about. And when you get a little bit personal, you've done that research, like you and your team had done that research. So I feel.
Are you calling yourself influential?
No, not at all. I'm saying you did good research. No.
All right, that's a little dig at yourself. All right, I get that.
No, so do your research, I would say,
Yeah.
because you'll have enough information, so be well prepared. A lot of the times people tend to go off topic, maybe they're not answering. So I mean, there's polite ways of saying, if I may, can we get back to this, to talking about it. Never do anything that might be rude in any sort of a way. But I
But
think,
how do you know you're stepping maybe into that wrong side and then immediately also step back and guide the conversation politely back? How do you know those? How do those tenets come in?
I guess you've done so much. I mean,
have any incidents like this happened? Where you
So-
suddenly got on the mic, hey, Avan, shut up, don't talk about that, don't ask about that.
No,
or maybe prod
that's-
in and ask more.
No, it's usually, yeah, I've got prodded, asked more questions about this, try to find out why. Or like, I mean, it's all business related.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm finding about their personal lives, but a lot of the time, like the guest is talking and they're like, tell the guest to stop talking, tell the guest to stop talking, go to the other guest. So yes, it is. I mean, sometimes you sort of say, okay, I understand. Apologies for interrupting you, but we have a half-hour show, so we're very short on time. If I may, I will have to now pose the question to guest XYZ. So apologies for that. Sometimes you're keeping guests waiting. They're in a bad mood when you start off. So yeah, you kind of sugarcoat them. You start off with saying, thank you for being so patient. We really appreciate you taking the time out. And having you on the channel means a lot, or having you on the show means a lot. So you do have to give them their due. I mean, it is important. Yeah.
So, again, a very interesting question I'm going to ask you. You've interviewed a whole bunch of people. Some very influential, some upcoming, some great achievers, some young achievers. One of the good things about meeting highly successful people is not just about the subject matter you speak with them, but also maybe a lot of learnings that come in, especially if you have a little bit of discussion around it.
Yeah.
Do you recollect some of the best leadership lessons that you may have perhaps sponged out, if not discussed, with some very, very successful people, which resonated so well with you that perhaps it's also helping you in your entrepreneurial journey? Can you think of 2, 3
Yeah.
of such and
so-
take our viewers out
Yeah.
in terms of what those mean to you?
Yeah, so to be honest, discussions always revolved around topics that were, the focal point, like the markets or the stock market. So it wasn't that much to do about leadership, but maybe in a way, when it comes to the markets, being patient and being disciplined, and some of those mantras in the stock market definitely help you in your life as well. Success doesn't come overnight, or even when it comes to your investments, you need to ride it out in order to reap the benefits, things like that. I've also, some of the up and coming people that I interviewed, which with the time were not very successful. I mean, I interviewed Falguni Nair way back before Nykaa was even close to what it was today, or even someone like a Pooja Dhingra and things like that. And it was so interesting that all of them as well spoke about keeping at it, being resilient in the work that you do, and not giving up on your dreams. A lot of them had even made a switch in their careers and to follow their passions. I think some were lawyers and they said, no, I want to do this, or this is what I was studied to become, but now I want to follow my passion. So things like that, that's the kind of stuff that really resonated with me or stood out for me.
So let me ask you a very interesting question, continuing with this. There have also been situations where you've had multiple interviews with people in different facets of their journey, different stages of their success,
Yeah.
and different trajectories. The question which I'm asking you is a little deep.
Okay.
A person that you interviewed when he or she was just starting out
Yeah.
versus when he or she was super successful.
Yeah.
Did you see a change in approach?
Change in approach will be this. It was way easier to get the guest on your show then. Now you can call 500 times and speak to secretaries and PR agents and whatever to get them on. Is very, very difficult.
But that's process.
That's process.
As an individual, did you genuinely feel, hey, you know, this person was X while starting, but is Y now? Or actually the reverse. This person was X while starting, but is so much more nicer even though he or she is so successful.
Yeah,
Take us through both of those
I would say
aspects.
that. I've experienced that. I've never experienced the fact that I thought they changed too much or, had let ego get to them and things like that. No, I would say that it's been very consistent. For example, I had an interaction with Falguni Nair. I mean, since I brought up her name, I'm just going to say, and still as wonderful, still great to hear her speaking and things like that, as gracious, so many lessons, so much to learn from. So
is that a takeaway for you as well as a takeaway that you may want to give to the viewers to say that irrespective of the trajectory where you are, your inherent DNA should still stay the same?
100%. Keep your feet on the ground. That is so important. I think that you don't let it just get to you. Any kind of success, I mean, being an entrepreneur, succeeding in anything that you may do, a sport or whatever, it just is to keep your feet on the ground. That is so critical, and that says so much about the kind of person you are. And I absolutely detest it when people think that money and privilege can make them get away with talking to people a certain kind of way. No, it does not. So you still need to be a kind person at heart, and that speaks volumes about the kind of person you are.
Has the same thought helped you recalibrate your mind from the time you moved on from being this prime time, full attention-oriented, journalism-oriented TV anchor to a self-built entrepreneur, to recalibrate your mindset to say, hey, you know what? I still am the same DNA, and whoever meets me today, irrespective of the background of the channel, should come back and say, hey, Avan's the same. She hasn't changed.
Yes, absolutely. And I have had people come to me and say that. I mean, tomorrow, even if it's my makeup person, I'm still in touch with them. And if it's a camera guy who I meet or whatever, I mean, I always shared a great relationship with that. That's why I was happy in the workplace. I wasn't like, oh, I'm on air, so, whatever I says goes and don't make me wait and don't do it. No, I mean, I think being a good human is at the heart of it all. And that, I would say, has even helped me transition from one to another, because yes, I was at that place where people were calling me to be featured on the channel, and now I'm calling them saying, hey, can I work with you? Or, so I mean, so humility just, it keeps you grounded and
keeps you sane as well.
Keeps you sane as well. So, yeah, it's so important.
In this career, for our viewers, when, let's say, they start the career and when they look into the trajectory and they reach somewhere where they see that they perhaps can be the next Avan or the next X or the next Y, what are those 3 biggest setbacks or challenges that they should expect coming their way through your personal journey that you faced? And how do you think they should be prepared for it?
So, no, I feel that number one, success does not come on day one. So you have to put in the hard work. Did I come on air the first day that I joined the channel? No, I didn't. It was years later. Did I get to do the prime time show? No, that was 13 years being in with the channel. So you got to put in that hard work. I would say number 2, you need to be built for it. It's something that you've got to want to do. So at the case of being repetitive, I knew I enjoyed being in front of the camera. So it's something that that you really want to do. And I would say number 3 is that with the good comes the bad. So you have to take it all in your stride and dust yourself off. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off. Even at the times when, I mean, I sometimes I was doing a great show and then there would be a rejig and a blah blah, and they would be like, oh no, you're back on the 7 a.m. show, which is something I didn't want to do, but I did it anyway. I sucked it out, I did it, so that years later I could say, hey, today I want to host the startup show, and I got to do that, and I want to host the prime time show. Not I want to, and it happened, but I was in a position where it was easier for me. So yeah, I rode it out, the ups and the downs.
Tell me, In this journey, and you've had different facets, and I believe that in India today, mentorship is a little overrated.
Is it?
It is. I'll tell you why. Because you have two types of mentors. One, who I believe are true mentors, who want to give for the sake of giving. And then you have these wannabe mentors who want to say that it's a commercial business and I want to be your mentor at the cost of X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
But I think a true mentor is someone who shows you the path as well as where the crevices are and where you will fall, and perhaps helps you to identify it as against pulling you out of it, because that's not what a mentor does. A mentor's job is to somehow give you some foresight.
Yes.
But also, in a career like yours, it's very difficult to say that people would go across and be easily adaptable to find mentors, because somehow there is this, as I said, there's this essence of unapproachability, essence of being at a particular level where, hey, you know what, is she someone I can talk to, etc. Also at your end, not you individually, but someone at your end, to say, hey, I am doing certain things in certain way, I have a persona, can I at one point of time reach out to someone and say, I'm just mind numbed, I need some guidance, I need some help. You said something very beautiful at the beginning of the conversation, where you said that when you were starting out, you had some friends who sat you down, took you through the SWOT analysis. You had family who went ahead and told you whether to do this or not to do this. But in your career, what's the role of a mentor? If you have to assign someone as a mentor, who would you do that? And for the guidance of our viewers, what is your true explanation of value of having mentors? Do you think the viewers should look at having mentors early in their life, and how do they help?
I think it's a great thing, because for someone who needs that hand holding, I think that is what the mentor is providing you. That sort of, this is what the road ahead is going to look like. Here are your pitfalls. Here is this. Don't settle for less. Do this. Work harder. Position yourself like this. I think that a lot of the time they're opening your eyes to things that you may not see or you may not know about, whether it's good or bad. And I definitely think it's very beneficial to have a mentor. But yes, they have to have the right interests at heart. They should actually be in a position that they want to help you and not do it for selfish reasons. So that's a whole different story. I also had someone, I was very fortunate to have someone, Delna Avari, who had been with the Tata Group for years, and she sat down with me at the stage when I was looking to, pivot on my own. And I think it was just so eye-opening, a lot of the things that she told me. So sometimes to have that helping hand, I would say there's nothing that can replace.
Helps, doesn't it?
It definitely helps.
Interesting.
It definitely helps. So it might not even be in the role of a mentor, but just having that someone who's your sounding board, it does. Yes.
Now let's flip it to the other side, the harsh side. What they say in the media world is that it's one of the toughest worlds to crack. And one of the biggest things is your boss is the worst animal. And especially someone who just hound and shout and scream because there's 20,000 things that happen.
Yeah.
How's your journey been? And to that extent, what would you advise our viewers that if you have a madman boss, how do you manage all of it? How do you identify crisis, and how do you manage crisis?
So I have had a lot of colleagues who haven't had the best bosses, who have been within the same industry itself. I mean, a lot of Upton left completely because it was just too toxic an environment to be in. Very personal decision. But it can't be great for your mental health, or, just waking up every day knowing that that's what you're going to. I, on the other hand, and luckily I think a lot in business news journalism, were very blessed to have pretty great bosses all in all along. So I never really had to struggle with that. But it can't be good having someone toxic at the top. So I definitely would say that you rethink.
But is that a fact?
That happens.
That happens?
And happened.
Like crazy.
Yeah, it did. But like I said, business news, very different, not so much where I was. But yes, also. But I mean, because it's your everyday life, right? I mean, you're going to be meeting that same person day after day. You need someone who is going to provide a conducive environment to work in. At the end of the day, we end up spending so many hours of our lives in that environment, and you cannot have that toxicity and Is that a word?
Toxicity. Toxicity.
Toxicity. See, I'm learning from
Not bad.
Yeah, toxicity, and
Yeah, true.
it can be too overwhelming.
I agree. So therefore, recalibrate your mindset and walk out if you think it's that.
If it's too much.
If it's too much.
Yeah.
And there are options if you're
Yeah.
good.
Whereas you can't, but then there's also this Gen Z who I'm not showing up today because
Oh,
I
that's
want to
crazy.
go, because, I don't feel, that I can't hack. Show up, suck it up. We all did it. You need to
But
put
this
in the
generation is very different. We're facing it even in our industry. Very
Yeah.
different.
Very, right?
It's very different.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't understand half the times.
yeah, I can't.
But interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, tell me, there is a beautiful adage which I think is so well endowed today to give your example.
Hmm.
And I want to actually understand the value, and therefore maybe the viewers can understand the value of it. It is always said that your true net worth is your network.
Yes.
And here is a person who had a crazy amount of network and then decided to go across and jump into the entrepreneurial black hole and then didn't get calls for 4-5 months.
Yeah.
But gradually the network comes into play.
Hmm.
For our viewers, what is your view and what is your advice? How much should one invest in the network? And how valuable is your network truly? Because there are two types of network. There is a network which is the kitty club network, which looks and seems and sounds beautiful. But then there is this other network which actually can add value.
Yeah.
How do you define network? And do you think it actually is the true net worth? And do you think, therefore, young people into this career should start building their networks from day one?
100%. For me, your network is your net worth. I'm not talking about the kitty party ones. Let's eliminate those. Let's have true, real friends who want to sit with you, talk to you when shit hits the fan. Those are the kind of friendships you need to have. Very different from a professional network. I have tapped into my network 100% that I have built over the years, and that has got me to where I am and will continue to get me where I am in my life. One can't just underestimate the power and the value of that. And I definitely feel it helps you along different paths and has helped me, especially when you dive out on your own.
Yeah.
That's when you need to tap that.
That's where the true
network.
test is.
Yeah, that's when the true test is. And that's when you need to tap that network. And I think that for the most part, majority of the work that I've done has also been through the existing network, through and through.
Yeah, of course.
Through the existing network.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What is one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about business news anchors?
Misconception.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, you tell me.
You tell me, I'm asking you.
I don't know the... but not...
What do they expect out of a business news anchor? Is it that you're supposed to know the entire segment in and out? You're supposed to be an academician as well, and therefore have that kind of context? Or do they realize that it is a research-based project where you are there as the mouthpiece, but there is a team that does the research, and you're expected to ask the question and not just know all the answers?
Thank you for answering that for me. So I would say it's definitely an amalgamation of both, that you do need to know enough, but maybe you don't know everything about every sector and every topic, which is interesting because a business news channel works in a way that there's an entire research team, right? I was also a researcher and an anchor, but then I shifted to being only an anchor. But the research team has different sectors that they specialize in. So for example, if you're doing automobile, you specialize in that sector. There's someone looking only at oil and gas. There's someone looking only at FMCG, because there's so many nuances in each sector. Do I know HUL's quarterly volume growth at the top of my hand? No, I don't. But that's why the researcher is going to provide me that information and I'm going to have it at hand. But do I know enough that, yes, I need to ask the guest about what their volume growth was and what the projections are? Yes. So I need to know what kind of questions to ask. But the material, the research, a lot of the information that you're being fed does not necessarily mean that I know all of that data at the top of my hand or the tip of my fingers, rather.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So this now brings us to the penultimate segment before that, which is a real fun segment. But see, I started this conversation with you by outlining what lifeboats truly are. And to my mind, as I said, failure is perhaps one of the largest lifeboats. But other than that, individuals have different lifeboats. And the true value of a lifeboat actually is recognized and understood
Yeah.
when you jump ship to start your own. In the last 2 years, Avan, you've been on your own. What do you recognize as your lifeboats in these 2 years of journey? And do you think lifeboats truly are necessary in life?
Yes, they are. So when you say lifeboat, like what you hang on to for...
Yeah. When you're down in the dumps and the people who keep you afloat,
Yeah.
people who ensure that you go ahead, the wind beneath your wings, it could be your husband, it could be your
Yeah.
parents, it could be your daughter, it could be your friends, or
Yes.
most importantly, it could be your
Your
mindset.
yeah. Yes, it is so crucial and so critical. When I say I've been on my own now, it's only been a few months, but yes, I was a consultant for the last year and a half. Having that person whom you can go to ask, does this make sense? Should I even be doing this? I'm not getting any work. Who should I tap into? Having that sounding board, which for me was my husband a lot, and still plays a very critical role. I mean, I don't know how I do it without.
You can name him if you
Yeah.
want to.
No, I don't.
If he has a name.
No, I will just keep it as my husband only right now. I do. Yeah, for me, that is, and even those friends who you can just sort of
Yeah.
call up and ask, or that mentor who, I mean, mentor is the person, I mean, you were talking about the two sides, but mentor should be the person you can pick up the phone at, those tough times when you're down
True.
and out and be like, hey, can I meet up with you? I need to discuss how to re-strategize or recalibrate, or how should I be looking at doing things. Those roles, definitely, you need that anchor.
So you need the
You need
lifeboats
the lifeboats.
to keep you afloat.
Yeah.
Interesting. So this brings us to the ultimate segment, the fun segment of the podcast.
Okay.
There are two aspects, and you can choose.
Okay.
And one is inspired and very highly original.
Do I get a coffee hamper?
You get a hamper
after?
of a lot of loves and hugs and best wishes. But as I said, there are two
Yeah.
aspects. One is
Okay.
extremely influenced by, highly original. My team has made it.
Okay.
Which is wonderful questions called the lifeboat shots. No hampers, only love and affection. But very original.
Okay.
No, not that they've been inspired by anyone. The second one is something called the lifeboat word up.
Okay.
Okay, the lifeboat shots are questions, and you have to instantaneously answer them. And they can be quirky, they can be embarrassing, they can make you laugh as well.
Okay.
Lifeboat word ups are one words, and I tell you the word, and you have to tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. Which one would you want to choose?
Let's do the word up. It'll be
Yeah?
different.
All right.
I mean, if you feel we should do it the other way, let's see.
You're-
if I'm pathetic at
you're-
this, then we'll
you're the
and
one
we'll
who should
edit
do
it
that.
out.
You're the one who has to say it, yeah?
Let's try the word.
Let's try. Shall we?
Yeah. Go
All
for
right, here goes the lifeboat word up.
it. Okay.
Entrepreneur,
Challenging.
startup culture,
Buzzword.
ecosystem,
Everything.
mentor,
Holding hand holding.
networking,
Net worth.
pitch,
Solid.
funding,
Not the be all and end all.
sustainable,
Mindset.
traction,
Necessary.
validation,
Not everything.
equity,
Important.
pain point,
Necessary again.
and the last, embarrassment.
Fun.
So that was word up.
Okay.
Okay, so that brings us, Avan Dubash, to the end of our lovely, lovely chat.
Ah, nice.
How did you like it?
I thought it was great. I feel like I sort of was more vulnerable. I opened up. I got to talk about my journey in a way I haven't otherwise. So thank you for that. It's been
Don't you
great.
think it's amazing?
I
That's
think
the beauty
your
of this.
questions were fabulous, and you.
I think the conversation was fabulous.
Yeah.